Welcome to Sports Buds Hockey Podcast, where two friends come together to discuss all things hockey and where everyone's opinion is appreciated. Please welcome your hosts, Merrick Zemp and Collin Simpson.
Hello and welcome to Sports Buds Hockey Podcast. My name is Merrick, and with me, as always, my buddy Collin Simpson. How you doing tonight, Simps?
Doing great. Playoffs are here. Excited. Can't wait to talk about it.
Well, this is it. I mean, we play all year. You play 82 games just to get to this point, just to get to a point where you can actually you get your seeding, you get your yearly matchup with the Kings, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, Simps, just to describe it to you, what happens is if your team actually plays well enough, at the end of the year, they have it's like a second season. They call it the playoffs, and that's where they don't take everybody, just like a half the league. Half the league shows up. I don't think the Flames are there again this year, but that's okay. There's always another year. There's lots of other teams, the Chicagos, the San Jose's that they're right in there with that also didn't make it. So I mean, don't fret about that. There's hey, it's 1989 somewhere, right? All those alternate universes and such.
Yeah, we won't get into it too much, but yeah, 20.9 seconds. 20.9 seconds is all it was from the Flames being in this playoffs. But I guess the good news is in 2025, the Flames have as many playoff wins as the Oilers do. But
so far,
we'll get to talk about it more.
So far. Well, you know what? Let's start with that. Obviously, it is an Oilers and Flames podcast to start with, so we've already covered the entire playoff strategy and formation and line combos and all that stuff for the Flames, so we can just move on to the Oilers and focus on them now. Obviously, game one was going to be a big one just with so many people returning. There's obviously the big talk about the injuries and who is and who isn't in. But the big thing was just getting the Draisaitl's, the Hyman, everybody back. In the end, I think it was going to be the best version that they can ice is really all you can do at this point with injuries and with problems. You just kind of do what you can, right?
Well, and the thing is, when you get this matchup again, as you alluded to earlier, this is not exactly the first time the Kings and Oilers have met up in the first round, and they've all been really good series. And sometimes it worried me going in, were we eventually going to be in for kind of a snooze fest or a lopsided sweep for one of the two teams, whichever one? Just because that's just statistically how it can happen. It's not always going to be a great series. Once in a while, you get a bad one, just like a Super Bowl. You get two or three good ones, and you get just a boring one. But tonight's game was anything but that. A little bit, maybe in the beginning, the Oilers came out a bit flat, in my opinion. But that's to be said for a lot of teams on the road in a playoffs. One team is really feeding off the energy. And as you talked about, some injuries obviously did play a part, although I think some of the guys that stepped in for Edmonton for the injuries, I thought actually had amazing games. So I wouldn't say that was a complete game changer, because really the first two periods, kind of what was missing was offense. And I don't mean just goals. I mean, I think it was to the 18-minute mark or the 19-minute mark when they finally scored a goal. They had only had 8 shots up to that point. The other team had 4 goals already.
Second period. Yeah, not the 18 minutes of the first. It was second period.
Yeah, 18 minutes left in the second period.
They made a lot of comments on CBC about 48 minutes of actual time between shots at one point. So they were stuck at 6, I think, for the first 14, 15 minutes of the second period. Like they didn't have a shot till 15 minutes. So I think you're right. I mean, I think a lot of the players stepped up in the last few weeks and did well. And even in this game, the players that were new or had been playing up a line or up a couple lines even for some of them. But I think overall, it was just they were really out of sync. Like you said, it came out flat. I don't know if it was flat or if it was getting back up to speed or if it was, like a little bit of everything. Like they weren't firing at all. And yeah, they got the goal at the end of the second period to make it 3-1. Coming in the second, or no, 4-1. It was 4-0 at that point, make it 4-1. And then from there, they come flying out in the third period, get another goal from a grinder's line. You've got Janmark scores, as they mentioned, the first time he actually shot a puck past a goalie this year. He had 2 goals on the season. One hit him in the ass. The other one was an empty netter. So the first time he actually shot the puck on purpose past a goalie. you're getting that depth scoring. Now here they come back, whatever. Then what happens? They get another penalty and then another penalty. 5-on-3. Yeah. LA scores again. So now you're down 5-2. It's kind of over. You pretty much buried it. You get another penalty shortly after that. And then they challenge it because obviously you need to challenge it. You know what? I look at that. It looks like that puck changes direction when it goes off the glass. You can see that it's coming up at a certain angle, and then all of a sudden the way the puck's moving changes. So
Yeah, but here's the problem. So me and my wife both agreed we saw it and we felt like it did look like it changed. But the problem is you have to have definitive proof that it changed. Like not that it changed. You have to prove it hit something.
Yeah.
You can't even prove that it's going in a different trajectory. That doesn't prove it hit something. It makes sense from physics standpoint. Chances are it did hit something, but that's all it is. Chances are. It has
that's
to be
not really
like,
how
I saw
physics
it
works,
hit.
Sims. I don't know if you know this, but science is kind of a staple. It's like math.
But you
It's
can't
like
use
math.
it. You can't use it.
You can't say that math's just going to change.
No, but you can't use it. You can't use it.
How about the guy that you're,
You could
your
say I think
linesman.
something happened, but it didn't actually happen.
The
That's all
linesman
that
says,
is.
"Yeah, it hit the glass." No, we're good. It hit the glass.
Yeah, but nobody said it hit the glass, so therefore it
The
didn't hit the
linesman
glass.
did. Linesman said that right off the bat. He waved it off.
Well,
Said
then
it
they
hit
would
the
have called
glass.
it as no penalty.
No, well then the ref called it, but the linesman said it was.
That's my point, though.
Like
The linesman obviously didn't feel strong enough that it hit the glass. Or the other guy said, I feel strong enough. It did definitely not hit the glass. So my point is,
I've already been paid by the Kings. I can't not call this.
Yeah. No, I disagree. I disagree. I think you call it, whether he's right or wrong, I think you call what you see. And just because we see it differently doesn't mean that's how he sees it.
Oh, for sure. And just because there's video proof and everybody saw it and saw that it changed doesn't mean the ref has to call it that way.
I still didn't see it hit glass.
Oh,
you didn't see it hit glass.
Oh, I sure did.
No, you didn't.
I got better eyes than you, Sims.
No, you just saw
always have. I always have.
Direction, so you didn't actually see it hit the glass because they didn't show one camera angle where it showed that.
No, they only had the two, and the one shows like from behind him, and it just shows it going up to the crowd. You couldn't see anything.
But either way, you're down 4-1 already. To ever use that as an excuse for any part of this game,
4-2.
You're a team that didn't deserve to be in the game.
Oh, they hung around. They did just enough to be able to come back and tie it.
The other team just stopped going at them.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things, right? You always start to think that you have to slow it down a little bit. They started dumping it out. They stopped skating with it. They stopped doing all that stuff. Now, the difference is, and here's the question when it comes to this, and this is, let's finish the recap and then we'll kind of go, what do we see from there? So obviously, another 5-on-3. In the game, they ended up 2 for 5 on the power play, but 2 of those were almost like full 2-minute 5-on-3s. So like they scored right away on one, but it would have been more time. And then the other one was an entire 2 minutes of 5-on-3. So, I mean, really, you're talking a lot more penalties. They didn't call some stuff. It was, in the end, it was playoff hockey to a certain extent. You definitely had some rough things here and there and whatever, nothing too crazy. So obviously they score on the 5-on-3. Now it's 5-2. You're getting a little bit closer. Another one off that we were talking about off the glass. So now you've got that double. That takes us down to about 9 minutes left. And then at there, Edmonton just basically went to work and started putting in the effort and going from there. They got one more from Perry, pretty much all McDavid. And then Perry just kind of stood there and did what he does, make sure puts it in when he gets a chance.
Which one did Perry get?
Perry got the one right in front. McDavid went around Gavrikov in the corner and then came out and passed it out. And Perry was standing right there.
I thought it was Hyman, wasn't it?
Hyman's the next one.
Oh,
where McDavid went around another guy, put it right to Perry, or right to Hyman for the next one for that one. And then the last one, obviously, so that was with, I think, 1 minute and 30 seconds left, something like that.
Yeah.
That Hyman scored. And then from there, it was, a minute and a half. 2 minutes left. Hyman scored, minute and a half. Connor McDavid scored. And so just basically got the puck, went around a guy, came in and just buried. And it was lunacy to have it come back from 4-0, to have it come back from 4-2, 5-2, all of that in the last few minutes. It was crazy. They quieted the crowd. They did everything they needed to do. And then an innocent play basically that really came out of nothing. One guy rushed up a little bit. He was caught. He tried to pass to another guy. He was also caught. They had them, like they're pressing well. And then the third guy came in and he had a step to be able to actually make a shot, which he absolutely did not do at all. He swung at it and he managed to just kind of come underneath it, and it kind of knuckle pucked and its way in. And Fogle, we wanted to call him Fogey Foglethorpe forever when he was an Oiler, and he's right in front of Skinner, and he does a big jumping cannonball thing in front of him just to try to block his vision, I guess. And the knuckle puck, he didn't even see it, just kind of went by it. Now, personally, I think he was way off to the left of where he should have been, and it glanced off his shoulder kind of towards the middle of the net. But I mean, this knuckle puck thing hit almost dead center of the net. So if he's there and maybe a little bit further back and not so much to the left with Fogey, then you'd be all right. But it is what it is. But it was a hell of a comeback. It was amazing to watch and all of that. But obviously they lost 6-5. They couldn't get one more. The miracle was over at tying it at 5. But what does this look like moving forward? What are we going to see? I mean, do you get more out of the comeback than the Kings managed to get a crappy goal at the end? Is it the perseverance that matters? Is it the comeback and all of that matters? Like, where, who comes out of this looking better, I guess?
I think without a doubt that the team that takes the most out of this, other than obviously the team that takes the points, will never downplay who gets the points. That's what all really matters. But if you're going to say who actually takes the most out of this game, it's got to be the Oilers. Like, if I'm the LA Kings, I played a near perfect game. Near perfect.
For a long time.
And still could barely hold them off. When I'm the Oilers, I played horrible for 47 minutes.
Yeah.
And we were able to come back on these guys. So I now believe through the rest of the series and myself that no matter what the score is, no matter what time of the game, I feel this is a team we can come back on. I feel like we can get them rattled. I feel we can get momentum on them, and we can score goals on them. And again, so I think just in that sense, now I'm not saying that, this is all pro Edmonton. The fact is they played poorly and they lost a hockey game.
Yep.
So there's no doubt about it. But I'm going to say from the way it ended, it would have been obviously crazy deflating if LA lost this.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. And it's a little bit deflating for the Oilers to work that hard to get back. But because they were never really in the game till the end, I don't find it that deflating, because you'll get over it real quick and be like, oh yeah, would have been nice to win it. But there's no one in that hockey dressing room who could be saying we deserve to win that game and we got robbed.
Yeah.
So I think it hurts LA more from the confidence perspective of the fact that, we should have put these guys away and we didn't.
In 10 minutes, they managed to turn this into a game.
Correct.
And we were absolutely perfect the rest of it.
So what happens when we each play good 30 minutes each? If we
yeah, you got 10 minutes. If they got 10 minutes a period each, kind of thing, and it's a balanced game, it's going to be 6-2 Oilers.
That's
like, you got to look at that and think about it, right?
Correct.
So a big thing I take out of this, it was the first time you had the Hyman, Nugent Hopkins, Draisaitl, McDavid, Bouchard power play together since like January, right? So you haven't had all of them play together and actually do that. It looked out of sync. It didn't look like they weren't quite getting in there. I think LA did a good job. They're playing the diamond and really aggressive, and it made plays. But you saw at the end when it was 6-on-5 that they can make those plays and find that bit of room, right? And that's what they were doing at the end. They'll do that same thing at 5-on-4. Like that same element is there at 5-on-4 as it is 6-on-5. Obviously, you have an extra guy. They're going to be able to find that, and they're going to be able to do that. So they went 0 for 2 today, but that's not going to hold either.
No,
they're not likely to get shut out.
You got to think across the X amount of games. It's going to be, you're looking at, even at a poor showing, 20% power play.
Yeah,
even at a poor showing.
Yeah.
So you got to look at that and go, every 5, you're going to see one.
Yeah.
So that's at a poor showing. So, they have to be aware and be careful they don't get into it. Now, obviously, I think if we were to look at this game as an overall, I think the Oilers lost a little bit more composure. Obviously, some of the penalties they took maybe just didn't need to be taken. They were punished on the power play on multiple, especially early,
Yeah,
which set the tone for this game.
for a long time.
Kuzmenko, guy from the Flames or whatever.
Yeah.
They've got a decent little power play, and again, even at the end, at dagger type power plays, right? And
What
so
do you
these
think?
opportune times.
Any one of those goals not going in changes the entire complexion of
Correct.
this game at the end. The one off the back, the cough up right up the middle for the fourth goal, like any of those, and all of a sudden this is a completely different game.
Yep. And you want to be,
So,
you're the Oilers. You're usually on the better side of the power plays.
yeah.
Because of your speed and because of the skill sets. Usually, if you were to say, look across the Oilers' 82 games, more often than not, they had more power plays than the other team. And
Well, and that
it's
was a
not
big
like
complaint, though. That was a big complaint this year, right, Sims? That the McKinnons, McDavids, stuff like that. These guys were normally like 1-2 in drawn calls. We're now 47th and 82nd in the world or in the league.
yeah,
Like you can't tell me that these guys aren't still getting fouled. Like so, it's just you can't call every time, right? You can't call it
correct.
every
You,
time they
you
go
don't
down,
want it to be a million power plays either at the
and
same
so
token.
there's that kind of thing too. And now you're talking into the playoffs where you're supposed to see less calls, right?
Yeah,
But I mean, when you talk about their power play, if they do go 20%, that's a huge improvement for LA. The last couple of years, they showed it one time during the game tonight, and it was like 32% 2 years ago or 3 years ago. 2 years ago was like 58%. Like they were 9 of 15 or something. And then last year they were 9 of 20 for like 46%. Like it's
correct.
crazy. So
And that's what I
if
mean.
they do cut it back to
Yeah,
20,
if they hit the
25,
minimum, I think LA wins the series.
they can.
I do.
But again,
I
they
don't
had
think there's
0 in
any
this.
way. I don't think there's any way Edmonton wins this series at 20 or less in their power play. There's no way.
They had 5 goals tonight with none.
But they're too heavy on their power play. Go back half the games of the year. Take away the amazing amount of power play goals you got.
Yeah, but
They don't win. They're not even barely in the playoffs.
they coughed it up so many times tonight. They did
Correct.
poor plays to get it.
Correct.
If they fix a couple of those, if they manage to not do quite that bad,
Correct.
right?
But they
They
rely
had
on the
5
power
tonight
play.
with no goals.
They rely on the power play. You
Well,
can't
they
not
usually
admit this is a team just like the Pittsburgh Penguins of the 90s and the Edmonton Oilers of the 80s. Some of these teams that were heavy, high in skill who all had these like 35, 40% crazy power plays. They rely on the power play. And I don't mean just like they need it. It's just because it's such a bread and butter for them that they
Yeah.
expect it.
Yeah.
And they don't compete with a lot of teams on 5-on-5 because the other teams may not be better 5-on-5, but they get more goals in comparison in 5-on-5 because they have to. They don't have the ability to rely on the power play.
Yeah.
And this is a team that relies on the power play. It gets them back in games. More
Yeah.
often than not, that I've watched the Oilers, if they're down 3 or 4 goals and they come back in the season, it was 2 or 3 power plays that got them there.
Yeah.
They came
No,
back
that's
and
fair.
punished you. And it's not like they didn't deserve the penalties or the power play. I get that. But it's just they're going to punish that. They're used to that and they need that. I think any team who is going to play the Edmonton Oilers or Toronto Maple Leafs or any of these stacked teams, if you could say to me, I want to play 5-on-5 the entire game, you can't think that's not their best chance of winning versus saying, let's each get 5 power plays and see how I did.
Yeah. Oh,
You're
yeah.
going to lose. You're going to lose to these teams.
Yeah.
So the more 5-on-5 hockey, the better it is for LA. And that's the only reason why I say if I'm under 20, I would pick LA for the series. I'd be
And
shocked.
they didn't get a lot of calls against them in this one. So whether or not that was them being smart and doing that, or if it was just sometimes you get the calls, sometimes you don't, I don't know. But we'll have to see how that develops because I think that will be definitely a story out of this. Another story I think out of this is the goaltending. You know what? For all the talk, for all of the, once again, they're going to be the worst out of the two. They're going to be, having the worst percentages. They're going to have the worst goalie. The other goalie's way better. They were exactly the same tonight. Exactly the same. 800 save percentage.
Yep.
Kemper led in 5 on 25. Skinner was 6 on 30. So, for all of that talk and for how, they're booing on Skinner and whatever else, I thought he was hung out to dry on a couple of these. The Kuzmenko one, I mean, it's just a great play. The Byfield, I think he probably should have had. It's that lateral movement where he should have got to the post a little sooner and it banked it off him. I mean, whatever.
Yeah, it was a
Hung out.
it was a weird bounce over to Byfield though. You don't really know what's gonna pop over there.
No, and it's try to figure out where it went and stuff because it
Yeah.
went through the crease, right?
But
Just
you're
went
not wrong.
past him.
You should get to your post quicker. But I don't know if I'd say I fault him. I think he bears some of the responsibility for it.
Yeah.
But it's not like a normal where you're just like a Skinner going, well, what did you just do? You cost that goal.
Kempe, the goal in front, he's basically he goes down because it comes out front and Kempe goes around him. The big shot, I would like to have seen him make the save on that giveaway by Bouchard, but like Byfield got it a little chip to
Yeah.
Dano and then a
Oh,
shot.
you mean the 2-0 in front of that? When which King's like, well, we're both so open. Who's shooting this?
Yeah. Well, Byfield was backing up, right? So
Yeah.
he just chipped it to Dano, who's
I know, but like,
skating in
what was
on it.
Bouchard thinking, dude?
Like it makes sense that he was going to try to chip it to McDavid, but McDavid's going through. You chip it to the boards. And
yeah.
he picks it up there. Like it
There's never a reason to, I don't care if it's Connor McDavid in front of my net or not. There's never a reason to throw a backhand in front of my own net.
Barely looking. Like just Well, and even the one before that, just a broken play that Kempe ended up scoring. He just backhanded it without looking up the boards, and the guy was in front of Nurse, and that started the whole play. By the end of it, there's two of them that are down behind the net, and that's when Kempe's alone out front. Like there's a couple bad plays. And then obviously the who was it? Fiala scored on the 5-on-3. Just he wired it.
Yeah.
He came across. I mean, it was absolutely top shelf.
Yeah.
Like it was a great shot. And then the last one was the knuckle puck with a guy right in front of you. I don't know you blame him on that one either. So I mean, I'd like to think that he'd be a little more in the middle of the net. But yeah, I don't know.
And I get your comparison of trying to say like, with all the talk of the goaltending, and yet at the end of the day that neither goaltender really outperformed each other. But at the same token, I think that's a massive anomaly for Kemper and not an anomaly for an 800 save percentage for Skinner. So
I'll say that. But the fact is,
I don't think you're going to see the same the rest of the way. I don't think you're going to see the same the way. I think you're going to see Stuart Skinner. You always see an amazing game out of nowhere, and then gives the puck away for 3 goals in the next game. He's so inconsistent. I was just about to mention the same concept for Bouchard. The two biggest knocks I have on those two guys of all the team. The rest of the team, consistent. Those two guys are the biggest hit and miss players. Skinner either stands on his head and he gets 43 saves, and you're like, wow, this guy is real deal. And then the next game he comes out and he's pulled out of the net after the first 4 shots. Evan Bouchard gets the puck on a stick, looks like a wizard. When it comes to making just a simple, smart play, he goes brain dead sometimes.
Yeah.
I.e. tonight's one. And that's not the first time I've seen him give those type passes.
No.
From that, he reminds me of like TJ Brody when he first came to the finals, when he first started. You're like, oh, this guy's really talented. And then over time, he just throws the puck to the other team and you're just going, that's the 3rd game in a row he's done that. Like,
I'm not even sure how we're comparing those two, but fair enough. Keep going.
Well, one's going to probably still have maybe a better career. We'll see how Bouchard ends up. Still got to
He
get
already has more points than TJ Brody.
No, I don't think he does.
We may have to. That. If we had a fact checker, I would yell at our fact checker to check that for me right now.
My point is, when Brody came in, he was a touted offensive defenseman. He had, he was supposed to go on to Team Canada, just as Bouchard, and neither one. Well, actually, he did go with Gio.
Yeah.
But the fact is, it was that same concept though. High talented with the puck, but when it came to decision making, absolutely questionable. And that's what I think could be a major difference maker in this series, and more so than normal because Ekholm's out. Yeah. And Ekholm, for me, for the Oilers, was your smart, two-way defenseman who always makes the right decisions with the puck.
Stud. The guy could play 30 minutes for you and not make an error every night. Literally every night. And so, no, that's a huge thing. I do have to say that getting Wallman wasn't exactly what I thought to be a big move or big anything, but that's right now, that's looking like a big positive for them.
He was
without
the guy,
Wallman in there right now.
I was going to talk about saying, I thought one guy, I think before we even came on the air, I had mentioned that there was one guy from the injuries I thought was like really stepped up and was really noticeable that game. Yes, he had, I think, one blunder and the penalty that cost him a little bit. But beyond that Jake Wallman guy had an enormous game.
Blocking shots,
if he wasn't their best defenseman, I don't know who was. There's no way he wasn't their best on the ice tonight.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it.
100%. Yeah. No, absolutely. No, I think obviously, like you said, I think the Oilers' comeback bodes well for them. It's going to give them a lot of confidence. I think they're going to come into game two knowing that they don't really want to go home down 2-0, and that I think they need to break through a little earlier and have a complete game. Um, I'm nervous about the fact that obviously when they were down by a bunch, they went back to the same old, which is uh, putting McDavid and Draisaitl together and doing that. It limits the rest of it, but obviously they did get a goal out of another line tonight. You saw some Perry and Hyman and all that, but it was playing with those guys still. So what are you going to see? Are you going to see them back together? Are you going to see them kept apart? They are better off if they can keep them apart and keep that pressure on. Then you see McDavid, Hyman, and Brown or Skinner, and they're in the zone and they're doing stuff. And then Draisaitl, Podkolzin, and Arvidsson come right after, and they're doing stuff. Like, being able to see those kind of keep rolling the lines and making it happen. That's the best for that team because it keeps it away from their end. If they don't do that, then they're all over them for a minute and a half, and then they change lines and they struggle for a while. It's not the same.
Yeah, I think there's no way that they're going to start them together. I think you go back to the normal, you see where you are in the game, and you make your adjustments just like they did today. I there's and when you're talking about a playoff run like this, that especially this team who tends to get series go long ones, especially this first round series with this team, I think you risk the rest of your playoffs by stacking up too early, because in order to get these guys enough ice time, you start playing them too much
Yeah.
when they play together. I feel like all of a sudden you're like, well, I got to keep them on for instead of a minute and a half shift, because I'd get a minute and a half of McDavid and a minute and a half of Draisaitl if they're split. So that's almost 3 minutes of chances. Or I've got to ride these guys together at 2:25 type shifts. And I think if you do that too early in the playoffs, come second or third round, you've gassed these guys who've had to put in so much effort through the year. I think that's so I don't think that's a strategy they would go with. I believe they think the same way you were talking is, perfect world is to keep them apart.
Yeah.
But I don't think if you get behind in games, I don't think you should wait too long to go to that. Because I think you can go to it earlier in the game, and they kind of did, but it wasn't until the end of the second period. And that's when
Yeah.
they got their goal.
Yeah.
And so
I think they might have had one before that or something like
yeah, but
that,
I think
but
maybe you go
not
to it
much.
earlier to get that goal back earlier. Why wait
Yeah.
to the end of the second?
Yeah.
Because if you're going to go for it, then you can split them back up if you need to.
Yeah.
Right. So I think, I don't think they'll play them much together unless they absolutely have to.
So what is your call on this series, Simps? They're obviously down 1-0, the Oilers at this point. What are you actually going to call for this?
I'm a little worried. I honestly would have went, if you'd asked me before tonight's game, I would have went Oilers for sure. I'd kind of forgotten Ekholm was gone for the whole first series. That's a big game changer in my opinion. As much as I've said guys have stepped in and done well, well for Jake Wallman is poor for Ekholm, right?
Yeah.
So you're not really filling his shoes. You're maybe filling one of the shoes.
Yeah.
So it's not quite there. I think when I watch the Oilers, no one can question their talent level, but I do question sometimes their mentality. And I've done it before in other podcasts where we've seen them come out in the seasons really flat. I worry about where they are mentally as a group sometimes. And I think if they were to lose this next one, yes, they'd get the hype of being at home, but it's going to have to weigh on your head a little. And if you do, even if you do come back, are you going to give up too much emotionally, mentally into this series that you cause yourself a real struggle to go the rest of the way? You got to get through some of these series without so much adversity and just click on all cylinders right away, and don't cause yourself have to win a series in game 7. Come out flying in some of these games. Put some of these games away early. Give your team a rest, so that you can't just be comebacks with these talented players, because the Kings have a good system. They're a very good system. And if you keep giving them these chances to get ahead and play this defensive hockey and roll 4 lines on you and cause you to overplay your stars, I still think if Skinner can play decent and the Oilers again are above 25% on the power play, I still think the Oilers should take this series. I never have enough confidence. We've talked about it in other podcasts. We both have always counted the Kings out in a sense of like being a top end team. We kind of overlook, even on their struggle to beat in the playoffs. We still don't, if you were to say, give me my top 10 teams, not often the Kings just sitting them out in there somewhere at like 4 or 5. So I wouldn't count them out. And I think it's going to be a long series again. I
Yeah,
think you're looking at minimum 6. And I think if the Kings win game 2, I think you're looking at 7.
best case.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of back and forth win at homes.
Yeah,
At
I
that
could
point.
totally see that. I think the Oilers will take the next one and then kind of go from there. Um, I really believe, as you mentioned, that there's a certain amount of confidence that they get out of this. I think if you see like an Evander Kane come in next game and he's causing some havoc and doing a bit of that stuff as well, I think you're going to see that. Um, you're going to see that ratchet up the Oilers' mentality and what they can do. So I'm hoping that it can be done in 6. I still think the Oilers have got it. I liked the fact that they came back and tied it. I mean, it was a terrible goal at the end. It should have been headed towards overtime or maybe even a hard finish by the Oilers and see if they could put it away before they ended. And especially that kind of goal. It was a 3-on-1 and he rips a shot. You're kind of like, okay, fair enough. It sucks.
Yeah.
But to be a knuckle puck crappy floater thing was
Well,
terrible.
like I
So
said when it happened, I said, this game deserved overtime, but I
yeah.
still think the Kings deserved a win. But
Oh yeah.
I think it deserved an overtime. It felt like that was a disservice to the game to have that last goal go
That
in
be the
like
goal
that.
out of this. Yeah,
And when we should have got a good, exciting 10, 15 minutes of overtime and saw a win.
I agree. But I think we are headed in for a long series. Hopefully, it's an Oilers win, and it doesn't take too much out of them because they're probably headed towards Vegas next. It's hard to say. Either Minnesota or Vegas is going to be a tough second round anyway. So, why don't we give a quick round the horn with everybody that's played so far? Obviously, there's been a couple games already with Winnipeg, a couple tight ones really. The Blues are showing up; they're doing pretty well. So, um, yeah, like what are your thoughts? I know Winnipeg's up 2-0, but I think 2 at home. So, do you go back to St. Louis and count them in, or do you think it's a 4 or 5 game series and that's going to be it for the Blues?
I I think it is going to be a quick one. I think the Blues maybe obviously I watched them a bunch down the stretch in the sense of, the Flames were kind of battling to get in. They did go on that insane run. I think maybe that showed them to be a bit higher than they were. They probably shouldn't be in the playoffs, in all fairness. 13 out of 15 games wins after the break. I don't think they're that team. So they are lucky
No.
to be in the playoffs, and they're playing against a team that is well-rounded and really, in my opinion, could be one of their last shots at this. The Jets for this core team. So do I think the Blues will put up a good game? I think they're decent, but they were almost complete sellers at the deadline. Right?
Yeah, if they'd have gotten the
This is not a
offers, they
team
were
that
moving
should be
people.
there.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to see more of this. Yes, they were close games, but I just think that Jets are more overpowering. I could see this one over in 5.
Yeah, I think the Jets might sweep it, but I think you're looking 5 probably at most kind of thing. I think you're always in tough with teams that win their way in at the end. Sometimes they're coming in hot, and you've got a team like the Jets that they knew they probably locked down the playoffs in January, so they weren't in a panic. But the Jets were pushing for the President's Trophy. They'd never won it before, so I think for them they kept playing well and playing hard, and yeah, I think they'll just keep going. We're now 1-1, the other Central Division matchup, the Avalanche and the Stars. So it's 1-1 for that one. OT today. So obviously a close game compared to the first one, 5-1. But I think that series is going to go 7, and I think that's going to be a great one the whole way.
Yeah, I honestly don't even know who to pick out of these two teams. Was a little surprised to see the Avalanche come out in game 1. I believe it was in Dallas too. So I was a little surprised to see them go out and kind of beat them up a little at home. Dallas is a good team. Have been the last few years. Have been showing really well in the playoffs. I could coin flip this one. I can't really. You look at it in two different ways. Maybe I've considered Dallas to be a more balanced team, and maybe Colorado more top heavy star team. But when the advantage goes to Dallas for the goaltending. So looking at that coin flip, game 7, someone wins it. Couldn't tell you who.
Yeah, no, it's going to be quite the series. You've got Devils and the Hurricanes. So that one, the Hurricanes won. I think everybody's pretty much counting on them to win that one out. Jersey's got some injuries. Jack Hughes obviously a big part of that. They've got a few other injuries. I think people are coming back now, whatever. But I think people are somewhat counting the Hurricanes to just walk through that one.
Yeah, I'd have to say it's the same concept as earlier. I'd say it's a maximum of 5 with the possibility of a Carolina sweep.
Yeah. And then you've got the other Metropolitan. You've got the Canadians and the Capitals. So first game for that was today. Canadians fought back to tie it, and then the Caps won it in overtime. I think Ovi had 2 more goals just because he's a scoring machine.
Yeah, I
But
did watch this one actually before the Oilers game. I did catch the whole game. It was actually a really exciting game. You could definitely see where the talent level of the Canadians is really high, offensive and stuff like that. But you could also see where they were really young and couldn't really control the game. They came in spurts. The
mhm,
Capitals looked like a playoff team. They just the way they played smart all the time, the right chip ins, the right plays. Ovi's first goal was horrible. The goaltending from the Canadians was not strong enough, in my opinion. It was a weak shot that went in, and that's what started this whole thing.
mhm,
But I think the Canadians will steal a game due to that high skill level.
yeah,
Uh, they could go. I know. I honestly probably will take the Capitals in 5, and that is based on I think the high end talent of Canadians gets a game from with a high scoring, maybe one game that's really high scoring, and they get a bunch. I have no faith in the goaltender to stop the Capitals 3 to 4 lines and Ovi on the power play.
yeah. Fair enough. I think so too. I'd like to see them push it, see if they can, get a couple of these, like you said, just some high skill games that just end up with a 5-4, whether it's overtime or whatever, but just a lot of goals going back and forth. I'd love to see them push it to 6 or 7 and maybe have a shot at getting through, but I don't see it. I think the Caps maybe, yeah, they lose a game, maybe 2 at most, win it in 6. So then we go back over to the Pacific. We've already touched everywhere else, so we'll go. Or no, we've got the Atlantic. So we've got the Leafs and the Senators have played one. So some rough stuff, a little bit of everything, and lots of goals by the Leafs. So big show by a lot of the members of the core 4. Obviously showing up against the Senators. So big win for them. Good start, obviously, for Leafs Nation. They're hoping that this is finally their year, as they say every
Yeah,
year.
yeah,
I always said that my call start of the year was if they could avoid, playing in Florida or Boston, which obviously Boston disappeared this year, but if they can avoid playing in Florida or Boston in that first round, being in that 2 versus 3 Atlantic game series, if they can avoid that, I said they'll make the second round for sure and see what happens from there. Keep going. So, yeah, I think they'll get by the Senators. I think it could be 6 games though. Senators are a scrappy team, so I think they'll push it a little bit, but I think the Leafs will get through.
yeah. I think in that game, the goaltender, who's not known as being a bad goaltender, just had a horrible game. He did not have a good game. Even the coach was talking about it after and was trying to protect his goaltender, but there was a lot of criticism, and rightfully so. I think yes, the Senators, I agree, have a pretty tight team. I think the goalie's usually pretty good. They play a playoff type style hockey. I think they'll make it tough for them. I think, unfortunately for them, is they did the worst thing they could possibly do in game 1, and that was allow the core 4 to get going.
Yeah,
The whole point of it would have been lose the game, but make sure you stymie them and put doubt into their minds that they are not playoff contenders. Get the media on them. Get them talking about, okay, once again, none of the big core 4 scored anything, blah, blah, blah. Put some doubt. Don't give them confidence. I think you gave them confidence. I think it's a a maximum of 6. Um, I could even see if they don't find a way to stop them from rolling, could be a 5, could be a 4-1. Good
yeah,
hard fought games, but just too much talent, some power plays, and it's done.
yeah. And then obviously the Atlantic, the other game is tomorrow, is game one, I believe, for Florida and Tampa Bay. So they must have had scheduling conflicts, so they haven't played yet. Some are two up already. Some are coming in for their first game. And then the last series is obviously who the Oilers will play once they get past the Kings, because that's what's going to happen, is either Vegas or Minnesota. So I think this was a fairly tight one. I think it was 2-2 at one point, and then Vegas got a couple more and made it 4-2 and kind of wrote it out from there. So I think that's probably going to be the fashion for this one. I know they got some guys back from injuries. Obviously, Kaprizov is a big one. If they can keep them rolling or get them rolling, then you might see that change. And I think Gustafsson would have to stand on his head to really make a difference in this one and really try to do it. But I think Vegas is a little too deep. I think we're gonna roll it probably in 5.
That's exactly the word I was going to use. Depth. That's the game changers, and it was proven by the fact that Kaprizov and those guys were out, and they were just could barely squeeze into the playoffs when they looked like they were good earlier in the year. They lost one or two guys total, and it was like a complete drop off meltdown.
Yeah,
Now
they
that
were.
I get their back, but all it takes is a great 4-line team like Golden Knights to stymie a couple guys and treat them as if they didn't come to the rink, and it's easy mode.
Yeah,
So
yeah, they were fighting it out with Winnipeg at the start of the year. They were
that's what I
both
mean.
like 2 losses in their first 20 games and all that kind of stuff. And then, yeah,
Vegas is a type of team because a lot of their offensive players are great two-way players. You're looking at guys like Jack Eichel and these guys who can score and also completely back check on you and just rub you out completely out of the play. It's I just don't think there's any way the Wild can do anything in this series.
no, no, I agree. So we'll continue to kind of report back and let you guys know where we're at. Obviously, there's a lot of good series out there. I hope you guys are catching the games. Watch as many as you can. It is the first round of the NHL playoffs is it's like Christmas, Easter, your birthday, all wrapped into one. It's pretty amazing. It's great to watch. Every series is exciting. Not every game obviously can be a 6-5 Kings victory, but hopefully we don't see any more of those. To be honest with you, I'd like exactly 0 more Kings victories would be perfect for me, but we'll see how that goes. Sips, anything else to follow up before we go on this one?
No, I think you kind of touched it there. I think just for the listeners, so they kind of have an idea for the expectations for the playoffs here, is we're going to try to do this exact kind of format after the Oilers game, since kind of that's going to be our focal point for watching for the playoffs. We're going to come in, talk about that game, break the analysis down, and then quickly touch base where the other series are, and that'll be kind of how we walk through this. And hopefully, we have a long playoff to be able to do that in. So it's double the pressure on the Oilers. They could really mess with our podcast if they don't really make it happen. So
Yeah, we put a lot of effort into this. The least they could do is just win the cup this year and make it worthwhile for us to do this all the way along. So, well, Sips, that was great. Like you mentioned, we'll be back soon. Next game is on Wednesday. We'll follow up with that and kind of continue on from there. See how things go and continue throughout the playoffs. So once again, we really enjoy doing this for you guys. We love doing it. We love talking about hockey and being there. So don't forget you can find us www.sportsbuds.com. That's sportsbudz.com. And you can find us on all platforms. We are on YouTube, Google, Spotify, Apple, TuneIn, you name it. We're everywhere. So make sure you do that. I want to thank you, Simps. Great talk tonight. And you know what? Don't worry about it. There's another season right up ahead. The Flames will be in there. And right now, I just want to tell you they're tied for first overall in the 25-26 season. So I don't know how long they'll hold on to it, but they are tied for first right now.
20.9 just sticks in my head for a long time, I guess. Sounds good, buddy. We'll
All
catch you
right.
next time.
Thanks for everything. Talk to you guys soon.